All right, I'm here with Glen Meter and Taylor Wagman, sales manager of MyPureWater. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you very
having
much.
us.
Super excited to have you. What an amazing time too. We were just talking before we started the show that about why water is so important. Right now, we're hearing, I don't know. We won't get into it too much today about snake venom and stuff, but these are the questions that are coming up. Does your water take out snake venom? And so it's a pressing issue. People are really concerned, and I really wanted to have you guys on and someone to talk about. An expert in the water industry and purification side, because I just bought a new house in Idaho, and I was going down the rabbit hole. Do I want a reverse osmosis? Do I want a distilled water? Do I want? I definitely didn't want a Brita filter, but we can
Mhm.
talk about that. But
Yeah.
anyways, the list goes on, and people reach out to me. I have clients and that I coach, and they use those things. They use Brita. They ask me my opinion, and I say, hey, here's my opinion. But now it's going to be really nice to have the experts talk about it. So, but before we go there, I'm just curious. Maybe you guys could just kind of start off like how did you get started in the water business? Like that's not, was there a day that you're like, yes, like this is what I'm going to do. This is my mission in life to purify water. How did that kind of come about?
Well, for me, it was my father. My father bought the company, and I kind of grew up with it, and I learned as I went along. And it was a while before I really started loving this. But then the more I learned, I really started loving this and really started seeing this is something that everyone needs to know. There's a lot of false narratives out there by the government, by other companies, by filter companies, all of that stuff. There's a lot of false stuff out there, and so we just I like truth. And so I saw sales. I was in sales, but it didn't really feel like sales. It's just about
Mhm.
telling them the truth. What's the truth about this? And so that was my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. More of an education sales job,
Yep.
which, that's what I do here. I'm a sales manager here at Pure Water. But when I first got this job, they had said to me, you are going to be more educating people. It's not going to be your typical sales job where you're really trying to fight for that sale. You're hounding people to buy the water distiller, kind of tricking them to buy it. You're just providing the education, the facts, and then you kind of leave that information up to them. If they want to buy it, they can. If they don't, then that's completely up to their choice.
Yep.
But my background is more of health and wellness. So when I saw this job was being offered a few years ago, I was like, okay, I'm definitely interested in this. It's more of a health and wellness background, but also has that competitive sales side to it. So that's, why I love being here is it provides both of those options.
That's not true, Taylor. When we met at the conference in last October, you were twisting my arm and had me in a chokehold to tell me.
Oh, yes, yes, forcing you. Yes.
um, so yeah, so just for everybody that doesn't know, you guys both work for My Pure Water, and I was lucky enough to stumble. I always think things happen serendipitously. I just bought a new house. I was looking for a water system, and
Mhm.
there was this beautiful talk at the conference, the Cellcore conference. We were talking about water and why water distillation might be probably the best way. And so I'm curious, like maybe you could kind of just, are there any like big myths that stick out for you in the water industry that people are just completely getting wrong, or that that you continually hear over and over again?
Yes, minerals is the first one,
Ooh,
always. People always think you need minerals in your water. They are fearful of drinking distilled water because they're going to become mineral deficient. So that's always been an education process. And that's actually something that I talked to Dr. Watts about the first time, even after, a lot of people were coming to us. They were asking, well, what about minerals? What about minerals? I mean, it doesn't ever stop. People are
yeah,
still
that's
talking
what I
about
heard.
minerals.
That's what I
Yeah,
heard.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I grew up. I remember my mom saying, okay, I know you're drinking bottled water, which is still not good, but you need a drink from the tap because you need your minerals. And I was like, oh,
Ah,
okay, I got to drink from the tap. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, we've always been taught so differently.
yeah,
And I think the origin of that is filter companies that
that makes sense.
really they do. It's this whole thing about we take out the good, we take out the bad and leave in the good, because they can't take out everything. They say, oh, well, the minerals are good, but the minerals that you get in water is not the right kind of minerals. Well, first of all, we don't get our minerals from water. We get our minerals from food.
Mm.
It's the minerals that you get in water is an inorganic form of minerals. So, you and I can't go suck on a rock of calcium and get our calcium that way. We get our calcium from plants that have processed those minerals, and then we get it either from the plants or the animals that have eaten those plants, and that's how our bodies do that. And there's also bad minerals out there. There's
Mm.
arsenic and nitrates and that type of thing that you definitely don't want to get. And there's all kinds of other stuff in the water that you don't want to have either. So minerals is really a non-issue, but it is made out to be this really big issue. The most
Yeah.
natural form of water is rainwater. I mean, if you go back into our history, our ancestors and prehistoric times, that was how we got water, is rainwater and creeks and stuff like that. And that's as pure water as you can get, really, is rainwater.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about that, right, you could probably rainwater is a form of distillation, is it not,
Yeah,
right?
Yes, yes,
it is.
exactly. If there
And,
wasn't all the pollution in our air, then rainwater would be very pure, but
Yeah.
it's absorbing everything else in the air.
so I think maybe the first step is to explain what distillation is.
Yeah.
So distillation is really using water's built-in purification process. So water purifies itself it's in a liquid form, and then it evaporates. And when it evaporates, water turns into H2O. So it's not H2O as a liquid. When it's in a liquid, it's a long string of molecules. But when it evaporates, it actually turns into H2O. And so
Mm.
anything else that is bound to is left behind in the water. And H2O is pure water. And so it rises, then it condenses into clouds, and then it turns into precipitation and falls. And so that is the water cycle, and it's based on water's built-in purification process. And that's basically all distillation is we're just taking liquid water, evaporating it, and then turning it back into liquid waters, but you're leaving the contaminants behind
Hmm.
in the raw water.
I wanted to ask you on that note, though, and that makes sense to me. You have to get your minerals from food and plants, food in general. Um, However, I'm wondering a couple of things. One, have any customers or in your experience like said, "Hey, I've had like a detox effect, or I had a
Mm.
Herxheimer maybe reaction because I'm drinking your distilled water." And I want to say now that we're talking about this issue, I remember reading a blog or something in the past with some health guru who was saying, like, yeah, if you want to detox, one of the ways you can do it is by drinking distilled water, and then I forget what the protocol was, but yeah, I'm just curious, have there been anything like that where customers have said, oh, I'm I don't know, I'm having some kind of stomach pain, and the only thing I've done differently is I'm having some pain maybe in the kidneys or something,
Yeah.
anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had some people who have said their bowels have become more loose since they started drinking distilled water. I know of a lot of practitioners who have reached out to us who have referred, people to purchase. Their patients are not doing well after they drink distilled water, but they're already going through a detox. So,
Ah.
my question is it symptoms of their detox where it's kind of ramping things up a little bit? It's helping them detox even more, or is it because of the lack of minerals? Because a lot of practitioners or even patients are thinking now they're becoming mineral deficient. They're more tired, their bowels are loose. But, we don't get minerals from our water. They're not bioavailable to us. So by us drinking distilled water, that doesn't make us mineral deficient.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, that is common that people are having symptoms like that.
Yeah.
I don't think the contaminants that are in water are so minute. I mean, yeah, you don't want to have these chemicals that are in water, but we're talking parts per million of these contaminants that you're talking about. So really the major thing that I've seen is when people start on distilled water, maybe at first they don't like the taste.
Oh,
And
wow.
there's a little, it's not what they're used to. But then after a few days, it's like, wow, this is awesome. This is really tastes awesome. And then if they try to go back to what they were drinking before, it's like, oh
Mm.
my God, that is disgusting water.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's just really hard to go back because you can definitely taste everything that's in the water once you're on distilled water.
Yeah. That's so funny. I was just thinking I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, and we were at a restaurant out here not too long ago, and they were complaining like right away. And it's just neat to see like kids have that awareness. I had the awareness, and I was like, we just didn't drink the water. I was like, this is disgusting. I mean, you could
Mhm.
Yeah.
just tell, like you could taste it. And they're like, Dad, like this is terrible. I'm like, I know. And they're like, I'm not drinking this. So a lot of times we actually just bring our distilled water. We just bring it with us because we know we're
Yes.
Yeah.
probably not gonna get good water. And I will say also on that note, I have a family of 4, including myself, a wife and 2 kids, and we've had the distilled water. We've had your system in the house. Oh, God, maybe around Thanksgiving or so,
Mhm.
and of last year, so November, and I've had no issues. So
Yeah.
I've had no
Mhm.
detox issues, or nobody in our house has. So that's been great.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's how it happened with me too. I remember people asking me, how did you feel when you first started? And I didn't notice any changes. I know some people feel the benefits, some people feel, certain symptoms, but I agree with you. I didn't notice anything different or feel anything weird.
Yeah. I want to talk to you too, just briefly. I think for me, one of the biggest telling points was we were talking about this too, just before we hit the record. Was the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. If you go to their website, they tell you flat out there's 86,000 chemicals, man-made chemicals that are you're being bombarded by every year, and that number just keeps going up. Because I remember just maybe a couple years, maybe 2012 or so, it was like 77,000. So it's just somehow these
Mhm.
more new chemicals are coming around, and you know. And again, some of the cell core practitioners, it's interesting. They do a lot of muscle testing and stuff, and so they are seeing things like a lot of their clients have things like their toxicities are coming from the water, radioactive elements, heavy toxic metals, all these things. And if you're using a Brita or you're using some other filter that's only taking out, let's say, 9 of them, what about the 80,000? And so to
Exactly.
me, that made a pretty good argument about distilled water. I mean, is that how you guys kind of think about it too? I mean, when you think about, well, what about someone's going to ask you, what about a reverse osmosis system versus distilled water? How do you guys think about that?
Well, okay, so you got a lot of questions there.
I
So,
did. I do that sometimes. Sorry.
yeah, no. I think the best way to look at this is there's different types. I'd say there's different categories of contaminants. So,
Mhm.
if you look at biological is one of them. So when you go to third world countries, biological is the main danger there. Then you've got organic contaminants, which are basically petroleum based. There are ones that are based on the carbon atom, but that's primarily petroleum based chemicals, pharmaceuticals, gasoline solvents. All of those things are carbon based, and those, by the way, are so powerful because we are carbon based, and they bind very well. So some of the most toxic things like dioxin and those type of things are organic based compounds. Then you've got inorganic, which are minerals, metals, that type of thing, arsenic, nitrates, lead, all of that stuff that can be in water. And then you've got radioactive, which is basically radioactive. It's kind of a subset of the inorganic. So you've got radioactive form of those inorganic contaminants. And so, going back to your question about reverse osmosis, the main problem with reverse osmosis is that it produces variable results. There's all kinds of things that can affect the performance of it. It doesn't take out all those full range of contaminants, but how it performs when it first starts is a lot different than how it is a month down the road or 2 months down the road.
Mm,
What is the water pressure? What's the water temperature? What contaminants in it can destroy the membranes? There's a lot of different things in there that can really affect the performance there. Whereas distillation, we're not actually purifying water. Again, we're going back to water's built-in purification process. So I'd say, day one and 50 years later, you're still getting the same quality water because that process is water's built-in purification process, and we're not changing that. We're just using water's built-in process. So
mm.
I hope that it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's interesting too is I was thinking, so my 8-year-old, he has, like, if you look at his teeth, he has what a dentist who has told me, and for people that don't know, he called it fluorosis, and he has
Hmm.
like all these like white kind of splotchy marks all over his teeth. And so the dentist asked me, he's like, Joel, look at his. I'm going to show you. This is pretty indicative of fluorosis, like fluoride in the water. And at the time, we were living in San Francisco, which he was born and raised there. They tout that their water is one of the best and comes from Hetch Hetchy and all this stuff. I'm not saying
Hmm.
it doesn't. And I want to say, at least since he was born, I had a Brita water filter, which I think, they're a solid company and all these, I have nothing against them, by the way. And that's what I'd been using up until we moved. And so I was like, but I don't understand. I told the doc, I'm like, I have no idea that's possible. I'm looking at him like crazy. I'm like, I have the Brita with the fluoride filter. I've always had that for as long as I can remember. And so again, it just shows like, if you're not, I mean, I don't know how that could possibly have happened to him, honestly. And so I mean, most of the water he's drinking is obviously from our house, not at other places. So it's really interesting that if you're not, I feel like my long way of saying this is like, distillation is really the only way you can guarantee there is like nothing in your
Right.
water other than pure water.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's consistent. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah.
We actually were just talking about that. Glen has a story about fluoride, and his sister, Courtney, who also works here as well, she was told by her dentist to take fluoride strips when she was pregnant. And being that she's been working here for so long, been drinking distilled water since she was a baby, she was like,
Yeah.
nope, not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Um, I'm wondering too, just for everyone that's listening, like, what do you think makes My Pure Water unique? Just maybe compared to other brands out there. And again, I already know from talking to you guys and just being connected with you guys. You guys have an abundance mindset. This isn't us versus them kind of attitude. But I always just like to. People are always going to ask I want my audience and I want the listeners to know, like, hey, this is a good brand, and this is what they would say versus some competitors or anybody else out there.
Mhm.
You want to take that?
Yeah. So, one thing that I have always really liked about this company is we're very scientific, we're very factual. So, we'll get people asking us questions, snake venom, for an example, do your distillers remove it? And the answer to that is we don't know because we haven't tested for it. So, all of our lab results that we have is from us sending off our distillers to an independent third party laboratory. We don't actually do the testing ourselves. We send it off. They spike the feed water with specific contaminants, and that's where we get our results. So we're not doing the testing, which a lot of filtration companies do. They will
Mm.
say, hey, send in your water, we'll test it. And then they say, oh, you've got all of this in your water, you need this specific system. We don't actually do that here. That's why, so when people ask us questions, we can claim what we've removed by what we've tested for. We can make educated guesses based off certain contaminants, but there's not biased information behind it. We provide the facts. So that's what I've
Nice.
always appreciated here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can look at a contaminant and basically say, okay, this has a boiling point of such and such, and so you know that's basically going to stay behind in the boiling tank. We know that, but we don't we haven't tested it, so we can't show the test results, but we can look at the chemical property of that contaminant and say, yeah, basically this is going to stay behind in the boiling tank. So that's, you can extrapolate all kinds of things there. But I would also say, and we talked about this beforehand too, that there's a lot of companies out there that talk about, I would say, other than financial stuff, water has the largest the scams that are out there and people
Oh wow.
making wild claims. There's so many wild claims out there. And I think one of the keys to look for is it, are they making claims and then saying, ours is the only product that can do this. We've got a patented product process that can create this clustered water or whatever they're saying.
Yeah.
And what we're just doing distillation. I mean, there's distillation's a process. It's water's built-in purification process. There's other distillation companies out there. You can get those. I would say uh, you want to look at where it's manufactured, what kind of components they're using, because you don't want to run distilled water through like copper or brass or lead or anything like that. And we have seen some distillers out there that have some really shady components, and not really just shady, beyond shady, like you should not drink this. That's the majority of competitors out there are not like that. I would say the majority of competitors that we have produce really good products. I think we're the oldest. We're the oldest. We were the first company to do this in
Wow.
1968, and we still produce the best quality products out there. They're made in the USA. 99% of all the components in the machine is stainless steel and heavy duty stainless steel. They're going to last a lifetime. We have a service center that we get products that are 45 years old, and they come in and they need to be cleaned up. Sometimes they need wires redone or whatever, and they go out looking brand new, and they'll last another
Wow.
45 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Love
we've
that.
always used US stainless steel. So, as you can see on our website, we do have that back order time, and we get a lot of questions about that. So, when COVID happened, they closed the borders. So, a lot
Mm.
of companies couldn't source their stainless steel elsewhere. So, they started going to USA made companies. And so, for that reason, the cost went up, the demand went up, and we've never strayed away from US stainless steel. It's always been here locally. There has been people wanting to reach out to us, but, at Pure Water, they've always said, no, we're only going to be a USA made company. Same with other products too. There's been the discussion of selling RO or filters, and the owner, Al, has said no, always. He wants to specifically sell water distillers because he knows they're the best.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's talk about maybe just some of the models. You guys have 3 models,
Mhm.
and maybe you could just kind of walk the audience through just some of the different models and maybe some of the prices in general of just what people can expect. You have like the home, the at the countertop
Mhm.
model. Then there's like this like a mid family maybe model, and then there's like the super duper. That's the one I got.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because I think there's like actually a difference. Like the super duper big one does like some self cleaning, so there's a little bit of a
Yep.
added benefits. But you can kind of maybe talk about those.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So, yes, we do have a small countertop. It's portable. It's for about 1 to 2 people in the household, or for those who are renting, because it doesn't require installation. A lot of times people will start off with that distiller just to kind of get a feel for distillation. Again, if they can't install it, maybe they're an apartment or a rental, it would be suitable for them. And then that one right now is $750. And then we go up in size to, like you mentioned, our MIDI Classic, which is a middle range distiller. It's more of a simple automatic. So that means it plumbs into your water line in order to fill itself. You're not having to work for your water, it's doing it for you. And then you go to dispense the distilled water right from the spigot at the front of the unit. So, once again, that's more of a simple automatic. It's still a great quality distiller, but if you're looking for something that's very convenient, the Mega Classic is the best one, which is what Joel has.
Yeah.
It actually comes with a built in pump. So you can have the distiller anywhere in your house. A lot of times people have the machine actually in a basement, a utility room, or in your garage. And then you can pump it to a dedicated faucet at your kitchen sink or to your refrigerator and ice maker. So you're having distilled water essentially at your tap, ready for you when you want it. And then it also has that automatic flushing system. So it really reduces your maintenance by automatically taking out everything from the boiling tank, which is where your raw water is at, where you get all that mineral buildup, and it'll flush
Mm.
everything out of the system.
Yeah, awesome stuff. I love it. And then well, we have it in the garage, and then we'll just go
Yeah.
out and get water. We need to like fill up jugs, and I just leave it next to this system that I have like supposedly structures the water. So I'll do that, and then and then we have it going into the fridge. And then it's funny, I have the guy who helped plumb it for me is my neighbor, and his crew came over and they're like, "Hey, can the guy send us photos of the ice cubes? We really want to see
Okay.
what like how pure the ice cubes
Yeah.
are." I just thought that was hilarious because like these guys are in the water industry, but like that was the first time they ever put in a distiller, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
so they were really excited about it.
You know, it's funny.
Um,
It's funny because when you put ice cubes in the freezer, the weirdest thing for me was sometimes you'd get these spikes coming off of the ice cubes. And so what happens is distilled water freezes, it basically freezes from the outside in, and it freezes so fast that it's kind of squirts something out when it gets there. And you get these little spikes coming off the ice cube sometimes.
yeah. You know, the cool thing too is I want to say the Mega Classic, the one I have, I think it's like around 3K or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
which is
32.95.
actually like a really, really good price because I was getting quotes all around the area for a reverse osmosis system or whatever. And well, they're all different, but that was including like a, what do you call it?
Softener.
The softener. And those are like 5 to 6K.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a really, really good deal, I think.
Yeah.
And it's plenty of water for our family of four. We never have any issues of it running out or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
And
I
actually,
will
Taylor,
I
go
will
ahead.
say on that, if you don't mind me interrupting here real quick, you know that there are the prices are increasing for pure water, and so you know stainless steel. I mean, the machine is 99% stainless steel, so we
Yep.
do think that prices are going to be increasing quite a bit. So you know, it might be a good time to get one right now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, we have a coupon. I think, right? I
Yes.
think
Yes.
the code's Joel11, so you get some kind of discount.
Yep.
So use that and
5% off.
take a little.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, on that note, Taylor, you mentioned just like the maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
What can people expect to do? What's like the maintenance typical for just if you have like the Mega Classic? Like, what do people need to expect in terms of like, okay, like I get it, I love this, but like
Mm-hmm.
filters, changing things out. Like, what's typical maintenance
Yeah,
for folks?
of course. So you will want to clean your boiling tank out because, again, you will get that scale buildup that it will accumulate. Although the Mega Classic has that automatic drain system, it really will reduce the maintenance, but you'll still want to look inside every so often and see what buildup is in there to know how often you should clean it. And it does vary depending on the quality of your tap water. So people
Mm.
who have softened water plus a Mega Classic, you're probably cleaning it once, twice a year. Whereas if you have
Oh, good.
hard water, you might have to clean it every couple of months. So that's something to keep in mind on, should I get a water softener or not?
Yep.
And then you will want to replace your carbon filter. There's only one that's included with the Mega Classic about every 3 to 6 months. And those are $30 each. So
Yep.
they're pretty, reasonable to even just get a year supply. It's pretty reasonable to get that amount.
Yeah. Very reasonable. Um, I'm curious. Any testimonials? Are there like any? I'm sure you have plenty, but I'm just
Mhm.
curious if there's like if you have any that like just stand out in your mind where a customer call you like you're not gonna believe like this happened, my health got so much better, and like the only thing I did was distilled water. Or any does anything jump out for any of you?
Oh yeah, all the time. And I sometimes I wish I would write these down because we don't ask for them. There's some people I'll just be chatting with them on the phone. I remember it was probably my first year here. Obviously it's a learning curve on, is this legit or not? Is distilled water beneficial? And
Yeah.
I remember speaking to a customer. I think he said he was in his 80s. And he said he had a lot of joint pain, a lot of issues in like his shoulders and knees. And his doctors basically said, you're going to have to deal with this for the rest of your life. That was, I think, when he was in his 30s at that time. And so he started doing some research. He did clean up his diet and everything, but he was still having some pain. It was getting better. He was becoming more active, but he still had that pain. And then he found, I think it was Dr. Alan Bannock, maybe, who wrote this book, but he had talked about distilled water and the benefits of distilled water. So he got hooked on that. And he said immediately his pain was gone. And to me,
Wow.
I'm like, wow. I mean, I'm not asking for these things. He's just telling his story. And he's like, I've told all my family members, my friends, everyone's on distilled water now. So it's really cool to hear those stories because people just like to share those with you because it was kind of a miracle for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything from you, Glenn? Anything that stands out? I'm sure
Yeah,
you've been in the
actually,
business for so
well,
long.
what I was thinking about is my father. So my father bought the company when the founder died in 1983, and he when he was doing his due diligence, he talked to some of the people and talked to some of the customers, and one of the ladies said, this saved my life. This literally saved my life, because and then she showed some X-rays, and she was down. She lost a kidney. She had only one kidney left, and she was having a hard time with that. She had uh, kidney stones and all that stuff. And then the doctor said, get on distilled water. And she said, well, look at this kidney stone, and it just decreased in size and was eventually just gone. And
Interesting.
she attributed her long life. She lived in a very long life, and she attributed that to distillation. But that was one of the things that got my father to buy the company, actually.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Um, awesome stuff, guys. I'm curious. Just any exciting projects that either of you are working on, or anything just going on with MyPureWater, or maybe something even separate. I know, Glenn. We were talking before offline, and you've got a lot of things with you're doing. You do. I saw your background. I mean, you have like new business ventures every couple of years, it seems like. But one of them is like the privacy action plan that you're working on right now. But yeah, I don't know anything that's jumping out for you guys.
Yeah, I'm actually not with Pure Water anymore. I have my own business, Privacy Action Plan. I do a newsletter also, and my driving force is freedom, and I am really passionate about that, and that's why I do privacy, for example, because privacy is you need privacy for freedom, and we live in a surveillance state, and we need to learn how to take our freedom back and our privacy back, and so that's why I do that. So yeah, Privacy Action Plan is my website, privacyactionplan.com, if you want to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I might have to have you back on to teach people, because I'm interested in some of some of the things you're talking about. Although it's a double-edged sword, like I said, because like here I am trying to be a champion of health, and I need people to actually be able to find some of this information I
Yeah,
want to get out. But at the same time, I don't. There's parts of my life I don't want to. I don't want to be in the know about everybody. So
I do videos, and I do that stuff too. I mean, if you want to get your name out there, you got to do that.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, as far as Pure Water, if are there any, I guess the most exciting project, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but is the Cellcore.
Yeah.
We love working with the Cellcore people. We love having people that really focus on the truth,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
is it freedom of speech, and freedom, science requires freedom of speech, and I think that's one of the things that we've seen recently is they've really corrupted science in a big way. But we need to be able to
Yeah.
talk freely about this stuff. And so I love Cellcore. I love that they champion the truth.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That was such a
Me too.
great conference too when we attended the Eco Conference last October, which, we hope to attend that here. I think it's in August of this year, and that's kind of,
Yeah. I
our
just
main
saw that. Yep.
project. But yeah, it's great speaking to individuals who care about their patients and wanting to get down to the root cause of what's going on instead of saying, hey, you've got this issue, here's your pill, I'm gonna send you off,
Yeah.
on your own. And I just spoke with a friend now who has SIBO, and she said she was meeting
Mm.
with the GI specialist or whatever, and they gave her some medicine, and they said, okay, this should get better in a couple of weeks, and you should be good. And now I'm learning
Yeah.
from so many Cellcore practitioners, it's like there's a lot more to it than just here's a
Yeah.
pill, see you in a couple of weeks. And so
Yeah.
I think that was really cool. Being my background with health and wellness is speaking with so many like-minded people who just care. They care about the quality, and they're doing their research too. I mean, I've even spoke to so many practitioners who have said, well, I want to try the distiller first before I refer my patients to it. So I think that is really cool that people are doing that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the same for me too. It's like I've had it now since, like I said, November of last year. The family's been on it, and at this point, health is so multifaceted,
Mhm.
but one of them is water, and it's really important. And so I get a lot of clients asking me, what are you doing? And so it's like, all right, let me see if I can get these guys on a podcast to share because they know way more about water. And I don't want it to be just like me, like I'm peddling this product. Like I want the experts to talk about it so we can share this with everybody because that's what I want. I want it to benefit everybody,
Mhm.
So
Right,
it's great.
right, exactly.
I wanted to ask you guys a couple lightning round questions and kind of wrap things up, but I'm curious before I do that, anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
Hmm. There's so much when it comes to water.
Yeah.
You know,
we we could talk forever on
yeah,
this.
yeah, we really could.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many scams like Glenn talked about too. So I think more than anything, it's just important that it makes sense to you. You know, there's a lot of things, right? I feel like people question, like he had talked about with the filters, we leave the good, but take out the bad. You know, I think you have to question some of those things too, and also be in control of your water too, because a lot of times people think, well, the government is, using this type of chemical to treat the water, or they, are renovating things or whatever it may be. But you're still getting all those contaminants in your water supply. It's important that you are in control of what's in your water.
And I
Yeah.
have something that I just thought of too. Linking the freedom with this. Actually, I
Yeah.
remember I actually became a libertarian because of water, in a way, because I realized everybody puts their trust in the government to keep them safe with the water, and the government lies. There's the Safe Drinking Water Act, which you can say, okay, well, that's to regulate some certain water. I don't. I mean, really, the effect of the Safe Drinking Water Act is local governments can say, oh, your drinking water is safe. Your drinking water is safe. And what they're saying is, they're not saying it's safe scientifically. They're not saying that it's free from toxins that are dangerous to you. They're saying that it is safe legally. They meet the legal term, so they've rewritten the term safe, and they talk about it from the legal definition of the word safe. And yet, so there's many cities around the country that have safe drinking water, but that safe drinking water has dangerous levels of toxins in the water, which is really very deceptive. And I think the most deceptive player in the water industry is the government.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, 100%. I mean, when you were talking, I was just thinking of all these other ridiculous propositions like Prop 65.
Mm-hmm.
Like I see that all the time when I buy certain products that are from new functional nutrition brands. They're like, warning, Prop 65, and it's like on a coffee label. And like some of these things, the intention you think would be to be good, but it's just like people are making money. The government's just charging. It's like a new way of like charging health companies, and they're like taxing them in like a roundabout way, and it's not making anybody better or safer. It's like, come on, man,
Mm-hmm.
Every year, Pure Water has to, I don't know if it's pay or if there's whatever, but the FDA considers pure water products to be pesticides, even though there's nothing to do with chemicals, but because it kills biological contaminants, it's a pesticide. And so there's rules and regulations that pure water has to jump through because of that. And it's just, there's rules and regulations on everything, and they're all ridiculous. So anyway, I could
Yeah.
keep going on this freedom side. I kind of transitioned from water to freedom, and I like going that way.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when I asked you how you got started within the water industry, you mentioned it was actually from a place of freedom, and that was like always a kind of a root cause or like a value that you had early on, and you started to realize that wow, it actually kind of aligns with the purity of what we're doing here in the water industry.
Yeah,
So it's really interesting too.
the privacy action plan is because of freedom. My newsletter is freedom. Freedom is one of my core values, and but I do. It did start in water. I mean, I got that libertarian perspective of not trusting the government from the water. So that's kind of interesting.
And now, thanks to you, we've got really, really clean water.
Hmm.
So without having to rely on the
Yeah.
government. Um, awesome stuff. All right, you guys ready for some lightning
Yeah.
round
Yeah.
questions?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
All right. If the old you could see the new you, what would the new you say?
Oh, you're going philosophical. You're not going water. I was expecting water questions. Okay.
No water. This is all.
If
This is
the
gonna get.
if the old
This is gonna
new
get
could see
interesting.
the if
If
I
the
could
old
go
you
back
could
to
see
myself in the past,
pretty much, yeah.
I would say relax into life a little bit more.
Mm.
I think that's one of the lessons I've learned more than anything is just relaxing into life.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a tough one for me to.
See, I feel like mine
I
is a
agree.
little bit of the opposite. I felt like I was more a little too naive about things, especially with the freedom things I'm, still learning.
Yeah,
But yeah, I feel like now I'm more on the serious level, care more about certain things, health especially. I felt like although I had that background in college, I didn't learn as much as I have now. So I think I would be surprised, is basically what I'm trying to say.
yeah. No, I can totally relate to both of you. I think, and like you said, like I think even the last 2 years in the pandemic, I'm kind of naturally my personality is more like just go with the flow. Like it's not that big a deal.
Yes.
And the last 2 years have really opened my eyes to the more of like I'm like absolutely not. Like this is worth fighting
Yeah.
for. Like this is worth
Mhm.
some would even say dying for. Like I've never been like that. You know, passionate about something like
Exactly.
this,
Yes.
and it's really interesting. Like you said, like standing up for sometimes, like I'm gonna stand up for this because that's the right thing to do.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
So,
Hmm.
uh, I'm curious. What are some choices that you think that you made that made you who you are today?
Hmm.
Don't worry, the questions are gonna get easier after this.
Okay, I hope so.
Because this,
You
yeah,
take that one first, Taylor.
Okay. Can you repeat the question again?
yeah. Just what are some choices or a choice that you think that you made that made you who you are today?
Mm, it kind of goes back to my first one a little bit, being more on like the serious. I was very irresponsible. If my mom were sitting here, she would agree with that. But I feel like as I've gotten older, becoming more responsible with things, kind of taking life in my own hands, um, just making better decisions, thinking, before I make those decisions as well. So, yeah, kind of just growing up, being more mature is basically what I'm trying to say.
Taking
Yeah,
ownership, right?
exactly.
Like I think,
Yep.
yeah, taking extreme
Hmm.
ownership.
Yeah, and I'd have to say the same in the sense that what makes a leader? A leader is just doing it. Not
Yeah.
thinking about it, not wanting someone else to do it, not wishing that somebody else would say this stuff. It's just the person that steps up and does it is a
Hmm.
leader, and so that's what I try to be is, um, especially now with the freedom. I think I am very passionate about this, and I really am doing everything I can to step up and do everything I can about this and talk about it. And I don't want to just sit back and just let this happen. And then we realize down the road, man, we're slaves now. The
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to get off on this, but the central digital currency that they're coming out with, if they're allowed to come out with that, will enslave us all. They're trying to
yep,
institute the Chinese social credit system here in the U.S. And I'm about to publish some videos on that about this is what actually has been going on in the past couple of years with the pandemic. For example, eh, the Chinese social credit system is a big deal. I could explain that for a while, but one of the keys is they have to separate people into the people that obey government and people that don't. Vaccine passports
yep,
are are separating people into the people that obey and people that don't. And then they give rewards to the people who obey and they punish the people that don't. This is the Chinese social
right.
credit system. And it's so insidious, and this is what they're doing. And once you see all those pieces, you see that this is what they're doing. This is the fight of our generation.
It really
It
is.
is,
Yeah.
absolutely, it is the fight of our generation.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Um, who's someone in the health and wellness world that inspires you? You know, you guys are doing so much on this front. Is there anybody that you follow or that inspires you?
Hmm.
Hmm.
A lot, a lot of people. I feel like I've always, as cheesy as this sounds, there is a lot of fitness influencers, but I kind of follow the ones who are talking about health, just not based off physical image, and things like that. And
Right.
I know this is kind of a cheesy answer too, but ever since Cellcore Microformulas reached out to us, I've watched some of their videos and I'm like, wow, Dr. Watts and Dr. J, they really do talk about health on a whole different level, not just, okay, here's the food that you should eat, this is how much you should exercise. It's way more in depth than I've ever known before. And I'm like, wow, this is like the next step to health and wellness. And a lot of people are starting to follow it as well.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, I don't know about inspired. The first person who comes to my mind, the person I am following right now is Paul Saladino with the Carnivore MD, and
Yeah.
I'm basically eating an animal based diet, which is meat, organs, fruit, and honey, and I I feel better than I ever have. I feel awesome.
Oh wow.
I feel great. So, I don't know about him as a person so much. I don't really know much about him. I read his book,
Yeah.
and so I don't know if I can say he inspires me, but his ideas inspire me. So,
Yeah, I love that. That's great stuff. I tell a lot of clients, I try to have like a balance through everything, but I go, hey, there's a lot of data that does suggest that plants are killing you. So
yeah,
so, and for some people, it might be necessary. So it's great to hear that you're getting a lot of
yeah.
benefit out of that. Um, I'm a big reader. Any books? Are there like any like top like 1 to 3 books or that just like jump out at you that like had a huge impact on your life and that you'd recommend other people dive into some of those?
Well, if you want to get really political, Nullification by Tom Woods is really good. That is, I think, our path to freedom is states, and again, I'm going on the freedom side, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
states have the Constitution gives the power to states, not the federal government, and nullification is the path that we need to take. I think there. So nullification
Interesting.
is what comes to my mind.
Yeah, great.
I am currently reading, this is sad because I'm reading it right now. Where the Crawdad,
Throw it
I
out
think
there.
it's Where the Crawdads Sing. So I'm more of like reading
Oh,
fictional
okay.
type books. I
Yeah.
just finished The Subtle Art of Not Giving a, I don't know if I can swear
And
on
Yes.
here, but yes, an F. But that
Yes.
is a
I
great
heard good things.
book. I highly would recommend that book, especially for, people who are anxious or care too much about silly things. I know we kind of talked about that a little bit about being serious, but also being relaxed, but it's more about caring about the important things in life.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Love that. Last 2 questions and we'll wrap it up. Any rituals or hacks or practices or anything that you guys do on a regular basis?
Exercise after work every day.
Nice.
That is something I feel like a lot of people ask me, and I always get thrown off is, okay, what's your hobby? And I'm like, well, if
Mm,
exercise is, but it's not really a hobby anymore because it's something I do all the time. It's right after work, going to the gym. That is something where I almost try to get there every single day. And I know a lot of people think, okay, well, you need, to take rest days, which I completely agree and I do. But when you're doing this all day, you're sitting. In my beliefs, I think people should always be moving every single day, especially if you sit nearly 8 hours a day.
yeah. Yeah. Love that. I always tell clients, you don't have to always go to the gym every day, but you need a movement
Yes,
practice.
exactly.
You need to be doing something every day.
Absolutely.
So
And
yeah.
that's definitely something I've got to do more of. Actually, is I really want to, and I have great intentions to, and I want to
Yeah.
do it. So yeah.
Glenn, you should. I mean, I interviewed the good folks of Carol AI Bike. They have a bicycle. I don't know if you heard of this, but it's one of I hate cardio, but I love this thing. In 10 minutes, actually, they've made it now. You can even do it less. But bottom line is, you do two 20-second all-out
Mhm.
sprints as hard as you can, and that has been shown. They did studies of 8 weeks, 3 times a week. We're talking 10 minutes. Like, everyone has 10 minutes. You got to
Right.
have 10 minutes
Yes.
in a day. And actually, now they've made it so that's even less. But it's two 20-second all-out sprints, basically. You get like a 2-minute warm-up, 20-second sprint, 3-minute break or active rest, and then 20-second sprint, and then a
Hmm.
2-minute cool down. And you're done. And if you did that 3 times a week, they saw a 62% drop in type 2
Wow.
diabetes. You create an afterburn effect with so you get like double the burning calories that you would do. It'd be like the same as doing like 2 hours of
Hmm.
cardio. But I love doing
Yeah.
stuff like that because I'm like you. It's like sometimes I'm going from calls to podcasts. I don't have time, but I got
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
Yeah.
minutes, and
Right.
that's what I do stuff
Yeah.
like that.
That's great.
Awesome, guys. Last but not least, where can people find you and the good folks at My Pure
Yeah.
Water?
So you can find us at mypurewater.com. You can search our home water distillers. Joel's discount code works for all of our home water distillers, which is Joel Evan. It'll apply a 5% discount off any of our home water distillers. So make sure you do use that code before you check out. Yeah.
And then for my stuff, privacyactionplan.com. And also my newsletter is at Glen. That's with 2 N's, glen.substack.com.
Awesome. Great stuff, guys. Thanks for
Yeah.
being on the
Thank
show.
you so much.
Thank you very much.